Hey, welcome everyone. This is Wynn Davies with W.E. Davies and Sons Remodeling. Our second week in our informative series on when we dig and deeper into some of those projects around your house and what to think about each one of those projects before you pull the trigger, right? But first and foremost, I want to give a great shout out to all those healthcare professionals out there, as well as those folks giving up their time on the front lines and helping the COVID-19 situation. We know we couldn't fight this fight without those folks working tirelessly out there. So thanks again, and be strong. So this week, with spring right around the corner, I thought it would be nice to talk about the exterior of the home, but more specifically, talk about decks and those spaces. You know, as we spend more time with our family on the outdoors, around our houses, we find those spaces to be a bit more attractive these days, with a bigger impact and the overall value that decks and outdoor spaces bring to our homes, which typically 10, 15 years ago, we didn't see that as much, but we know now that that is a big selling point with our homes today, and things we need to think about as well. So decks, outdoor spaces, concrete slabs, pavers, decks, you know, they all have their place in our houses, or depending on what type of house you have and how it's laid out. So yeah, decks in general, we see for us those more calls coming in for us with those outdoor spaces. Again, we find those to be, I got a bit more personable, or a warmer space for families as they use those for multiple spaces, not just hanging out, but you know, grilling with the kids. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about decks themselves, as you know, they're in itself a bigger project, I guess, than we typically think, but we want to have a lot of discussion about that. So let's move on. I guess one of the biggest pluses we find, you know, again, with decks versus hardscapes, is that we can build those in a variety of different heights according to your house and how it's laid out. So, you know, we can set that thing, you know, maybe a couple inches from the door system itself, to we can step down with a staircase to a deck and be closer to the yard if that's something you're looking that's more inviting to you. So a lot of different ways to approach that. I guess the first question we want to ask ourselves, is there a existing structure there or not? So what that means is that if there's an existing structure there currently, are we going to build onto that? How old is that structure? Can we use the structure itself and maybe just replace the decking and or railing system around it? And are some of the materials currently on there usable? So we look at a lot of different ways to, can we save money by just saving the framing structure of that deck, and then maybe replacing just the boards and railing system? Or how old is that deck? Is it 20, 25 years old, or maybe older? That typically we find that's probably the life expectancy of a wood deck structure. And we have to keep in mind about not just the deck, but the footings underneath the deck that's actually holding that thing up. So that in itself is another thing we have to think about if we were to save that deck itself. All right. As well as the size of that deck. It may have worked 20 years ago or 10 years ago, but maybe the family has changed. Maybe you're the new homeowner, you have a larger family. Can we build onto that existing deck itself? Or again, do we have to remove the entire thing and start from scratch? All right. What else we want to talk about with kind of steps? There's two costs really for decks that I look at as your major costs. One is the deck itself, or decking product. And secondly, is their railing systems going to be installed onto the deck? So if we're using a railing system or going to be talking about railings, we'd be talking about two different areas and all the components that go into that. So let's dive into the first and foremost things about those outdoor structures. Now that we've decided to build the deck, what's next, right? So before we discuss any exterior work or building of these need different permitting processes, okay? So a deck is a permanent structure and part of your house, meaning that whatever you build there, you'll need a site plan or a plot plan, as well as a plan of the structure itself, okay? The site plan is a plan for the complete property dimensions, where the house sits in the property, as well as your driveway, any sidewalks in the property, and any other hard surfaces on your property. So basically, it's the exact dimensions of your property, where the house specifically sits on the property. And why is that important? We have to know setback requirements. So each municipality has those setback requirements. In general, state of Wisconsin, they're pretty similar, but still your municipality, your township, they're going to have specific dimensions you have to go by. So that site plan is a really specific thing. Now, if you do not have a site plan, we recommend contacting a surveying company to do that. And that really is the first and foremost thing you're going to need if you decide to have a structure built, any exterior structure, be it an addition to your house or be it a deck, okay? Keep that in mind. So on the average cost of a site plan, keep in mind there's a range of these. We see that typically in our area being around $750 to $1,000. That typically should get you there for that site plan in general. You don't absolutely 100% have to have a certified site plan. Yes, you could take some dimensions yourself and draw that to scale, but keep in mind this is a legal document of your house, and we do recommend folks having that certified survey done if you're going to do any type of building, because keep in mind you are liable for that build, and if they find those dimensions being wrong, someone is not going to be happy, and you know, down that course, that's not a good situation. So that being said, you know, these plans also protect you from your neighbors building whatever they're going to build. So remember, it's not just about you, but it's about the surrounding properties as well. If they were to build something, you have that legal document in your hands. So you have some, I guess, some documentation there, okay? So that's, again, really important to move forward as part of the planning process. So once we have that site plan in hand, we can go to drafting the actual plans themselves for the deck, right? So when we draft plans for a deck, and let's just say we have that site plan in hand, where does that go next? It goes to your municipality, and it's going to go to the zoning department. The zoning department is going to say, yep, you can build your deck in that spot. It meets all the side yard requirements, rear yard requirements. You're good to go. All right. So next is the actual building permit itself. All right. And to get that, yes, you will need to have those deck plans themselves. The deck plans will need to have the actual deck dimensions, the framing member sizes, as well as structural footing placements and supports and dimensioning of all those parts and pieces to your deck. So really, it's not just a pretty piece of paper we're asking to have printed, but those documents in order to get that building permit, guys. All right. So let's just say we have the plans in hand. We have our permitting in place. Fantastic. That's awesome. We have everything in place. Let's just talk a little bit about the decking materials themselves, right? There are so many different products in the market today. It really makes even the professionals be on their A game of what's on the market, what's best for you, and why are we choosing certain products, okay? You know, this usually is about an hour discussion with our clients about these products and the reasons why we're choosing one over the other. So I'm going to try to condense that into obviously a very short version for you guys today. But in general, right, we have the old standby wood. Wood meaning treated material. They still make treated decking. That's really about the most basic of all decks and probably the least longevity of products, and probably, in my opinion, the most maintainable, meaning you're going to need to maintain that deck probably starting immediately with some kind of preservative or stain product to keep the longevity of that deck in place from cracking, splitting, warping. It is the cheapest, but it is the most maintainable, okay? Next would be cedar. We use cedar for many, many years in the building industry with decks, just because of the ability to, its insect capability to keep insects from going into our decking products. I guess just the nature of cedar itself as an exterior product lasts much, much longer. We see cedar probably lasting good 15, 20 years, but again, you're going to need to maintain that cedar to keep the appearance up as well as the longevity. So here we are now with other wood products such as the exotic wood products, which comes from different countries. These are not the trees that are being lost forever. These are a byproduct, exotic species as we call, Ipe, grappa gold as they call it, super hard density, harder than oak. They are definitely a good outdoor product, but they would need to have some type of product such as a stain or preservative put on it. Basically meaning that they turn kind of a grayish color over time. And for some folks that really doesn't look attractive, so we put a stain on it to do that, okay? So other than that, there's our wood species that we have. We pretty much see those kind of going to the wayside based on the maintenance factor, okay? So what we're talking about now is all the composite products in the industry. Those themselves they have a plethora, a huge range of styles, colors, sizes, as well as the longevity and pricing of those products, guys. So I can't say that enough about that in general, that you really have to do some homework when you're looking into the composite decking industry. Basically, everyone sells a brand, and they really range in cost. We see those ranging in cost from less than $2 a lineal foot to upwards to $5 or more per lineal foot. And that's really based on how well that manufacturer has put a warranty in the product. Some of these will last and warranty up to, they're saying, 25 years now. So I think that's a fantastic range. And actually, most recently, a manufacturer has put on the market a 25-year warranty on their product as well as replacement. That's unheard of actually in our industry, of putting a warranty of the product itself and the cost to replace it. So I give kudos to that company for doing that. That is that's unheard of, but pretty attractive to actually some of the professionals that are installing those products. So we're really guaranteeing a long-lasting, good product for those folks. Now, keep in mind something about that in itself, about why would I choose a $5 lineal foot product versus a $2? Let's just talk about how long you're going to be in your home. Say you're going to be in your home only 5 years, okay? Well, at the end of the 5 years, you want to sell the house in good shape, right? And say, hey guys, I just replaced my deck 5 years ago, and it's still in really good condition, right? Well, what if you're going to be in your house for, let's say, 10, 15, or longer years? You may want to think about spending a little bit more money on that higher cost product, just because of the fact it's going to last longer for you, right? One of the scenarios that I've seen before, which is folks don't think about that down the road value of the product. They just see the kind of shiny light of, ooh, it costs less, so I'm going to buy it now, versus let's think about down the road cost. So if you start to break that down in a yearly cost, year after year after year, I think it lessens it actually, and it's a better value, in my opinion. So just keep that in mind. There's some value to the higher cost products in the market. So, yeah, plus it's like basically no maintenance, right? You don't have to do a thing to that product. Now, in general, each manufacturer talks about maintenance, and what they mean about maintenance is basically taking a simple soap solution, even a dish soap solution, and scrubbing that with a brush maybe once a year to get the micro particles out of the grooves of those composite materials. And that helps actually in the slipperiness of the product. So one of the kind of downfalls of some of those is that I've heard that some of them can be a bit slippery when they're wet. But again, some manufacturers have taken that to the next level and really taking care of that when they're wet. You don't see that happening. So homework, again, like anything with buying a product, does the person good to do that. So the other factor, like I mentioned earlier, was about railing systems. That in itself is a whole nother topic and discussion, I think, for another day. But that is the other big cost in decks. First and foremost, I guess, is, do you need a railing system? Well, if you need steps, normally we talk about steps and railings if you have more than 3 steps or 24 inches off of the ground or grade. You will have to have a railing system. So if you do have a railing system, what is out there? Well, again, let's just touch base very quickly. There's vinyl, there's aluminum, there's stainless cable rail systems, there's glass, there's composite. So that in itself is another cost we like to break off of our general costing, so that our customers see the value and the actual cost of their product or overall project, okay? So other than that, those are the 2 major costs of decks going into that. But we want to give folks a good overall sense of, it's not just kind of throwing on some deck some framing and throwing on some deck boards, as they say, it really takes some effort to decide what product is best for you and your family. What cost range can you put towards that deck system? Do you need railings and railing systems to the deck? And how does that truly fit to your home and your lifestyle? So many things go into that costing when we talk about decks with our clients. And that's why we don't like to really talk about costs out of the gate, because there's so many variables and little parts and pieces to your home to get to that actual cost. So I hope that helps again with that exterior project decks itself. And again, feel free to send me any of your comments or questions to wynn@wedavies.com. If you can just put in there Wednesdays with Wynn on the subject line, that'd be awesome. That would help me see that, maybe comment back on a different project, or comment on a different time. That'd be awesome. So in closing, again, be safe, be kind, and always be grateful. Thanks again. Be safe.